Okay, ready? We're in Redwall, part 2, chapter 12. And um, remember that the fox and her escort have to explain themselves. They're on their way back to Clooney. And the badger killed one of the other escorts. And the sparrow let slip where Martin's sword really is. So, chapter 12. Sitting comfortably, propped up on pillows, Clooney sipped a beaker of barley wine as he listened to the improbable tales spun by Selah and Fangburn. They both fidgeted nervously during the course of their deceitful narrative, trying desperately not to contradict one another while at the same time avoiding the cold, impassive eye of the warlord. It was like this, Chief, Fangburn stammered. Me and the old Redtooth were keeping our eyes on the fox when suddenly Redtooth hears a noise in the woods, so he goes off to investigate. Where was the noise coming from? Snapped Clooney. The deceivers spoke together. North, said Selah. West, said Fangburn, simultaneously. It was sort of northwest, Selah gulped, realizing how foolish she sounded. Knowing that Clooney was smarter than either of them, she wished she didn't have this big dumb rat to corroborate the story. So Redtooth went off to see what the noise was, Selah faltered. We told him not to go, sir, but he insisted. Clooney watched Selah's legs shaking. Go on. What happened then? He murmured. Fangburn took the tale again. Well, you see, Chief, he was gone an awful long time. We both called out to him, but there was no answer. So we both went to look for him, said Selah. Clooney toyed with the beaker, his eyes bored into the fox. We searched and searched, sir, Selah mumbled, but all we could find was this big stretch of marshland and bog, which poor old Redtooth had wandered into and had been sucked down, never to be seen again, Clooney supplemented. Selah kept wishing the floor would open up and swallow her. Fangburn sobbed brokenly. Our poor friend Redtooth's gone forever. Yes, our poor friend Redtooth, Clooney agreed sympathetically. Suddenly his voice hardened as he shot a question at Fangburn. You! How did your face get knocked about, and where did you get those long scratches from? Selah jumped in hastily. You walked into a big thorn tree, didn't you, Fangburn? What? Oh, yes, I was dashing about and I didn't see it, Chief. The fox can tell you she saw it, and if she didn't, well, I already told her, said Fangburn, his voice trailing off miserably. Clooney laughed mirthlessly, his fangs showing yellow and sharp. So, you walked into a big thorn tree and got two black eyes, a torn ear, and your whole hide covered in long scratches. Fangburn stared at the floor. He had to swallow twice before he could answer, his voice subdued. That's what happened, Chief. Clooney's tone was laden with sarcasm. And then I suppose that three little pigs with wings flew down and gave you a toffee apple each? Yes, I mean, what was that, Chief? Ouch! Fangburn hopped on one leg as Selah kicked his ankle to silence him. You, fox, Clooney snarled. Where's the special herb you went and searched for? Selah was completely nonplussed. Special herb? Clooney hurled the beaker. It bounced off Fangburn's nose, splashing barley wine over them both. Get out! Get out of my sight before I have you tortured and roasted, Clooney roared at the unlucky pair. There was an undignified scramble. The door slammed shut behind the conspirators. Clooney lay back and smirked. Everything was going according to plan. He had lost Redtooth, but what the devil? Redtooth had been an ambitious rat. Clooney only admired ambition in one rodent, himself. Far off in Mossflower Wood, the night breezes stirred the treetops gently. The moon rode in a cloudless sky, its pale light filtered through the waving foliage to create the beautiful but strange effect of a shimmering, swaying carpet on the woodland floor. Asmodeus, Asmodeus. The covering of dead moonlight vegetation on the ground trembled and rustled. What better cover than a light breeze and a hunter's moon? Glittering black eyes searched the night. A forked tongue tasted the air. The small living plants appeared to shudder along the long, scaly body brushed by them, trailing its way along. Asmodeus, Asmodeus. Softly rustling, deceptive as the speckled shadows, the huge adder roamed his domain. Patience and stealth were acquired by long experience. Sometimes the serpent would lie totally inert, awaiting the unsuspecting paw that trod too close. Other time it would raise itself, uncoiling to look into bushes for eggs and birds on the nest. Some nights it was lean hunting. Many creatures sensed the approach of the slithering evil or scented its dry, musty, death-like odor. The snake had often gone hungry at times like these. But patience and stealth. A lesson soon learned is a meal soon earned. At the foot of the sycamore, the adder stretched itself along the still form of Redtooth. Well, an unexpected bonus. This was another rat that could not scurry off. No expenditure of venom or hypnosis needed. How fortunate! The huge reptile coiled itself languorously around the dead rodent. Asmodeus, Asmodeus. No need of burial parties. Nature and the woodlands took care of their own funeral arrangements. There was but one efficient undertaker. The adder's jaws opened in something resembling the nightmare of a smile. The pathway to eternity was open. That means he swallowed him. Okay, chapter 13. I gotta sneeze. Just a minute. Okay, chapter 13. Matthias was excused duties at the gatehouse fortifications. The council had agreed that both he and Methuselah, plus any creatures they chose to help them, were to be left to their own devices. The majority of the Redwall mice thought that Matthias was acting a little oddly, but the young mouse knew exactly what he was about. He strolled slowly through the abbey grounds. Behind him hopped Warbeak on a lead with a collar about her neck. On the sparrow's uninjured leg, Matthias had tied a brick. Not a very big brick, but one large enough to stop the bird from getting airborne or trying to any sneak attacks upon its captor. Thoroughly disgruntled, the sparrow hopped along like a feathered convict with a ball and chain, forced to follow the young mouse wherever he chose to wander. At first, Warbeak had raved and threatened. Death was too good for Matthias. Warbeak was going to kill him twice, then cut him up and drop him from the top of a high tree for the worms to feed upon. Matthias had merely tugged the lead sharply and quickened his pace. When the savage young sparrow showed signs of good behavior, Matthias would feed her morsels of candied chestnut. The treatment was working. Outside the gatehouse, Matthias rested. He fed the sparrow some more of the candied fruit, or nut. There now, you good bird. Well done, he said approvingly. Warbeak scowled fiercely, but she munched the nut readily. Methuselah popped his head out briefly and beckoned. Come into the study, Matthias. Oh, and bring the little horror, too. In the cluttered study, the old mouse produced a yellowed volume. Our old friend, Sister Germain's translation of the original Redwall Abbey blueprints. I think I've found what we're looking for in the main diagram. See? Matthias studied the blueprint carefully. Brilliant, he exclaimed. You've done it again, my friend. A route to the Abbey roof from the inside. Methuselah breathed upon his glasses, polishing them on his fur. Really, it's thanks to Sister Germain for keeping such fastidious records, young mouse. Now, here's where you'll start. An hour later, Matthias left the gatehouse with Warbeak bobbing behind. As they went, the young mouse muttered to himself, I'll need 5 or 6 strong climbing ropes, some spikes, oh, and a hammer. Must have a hammer. Now let's see. A good haversack to carry it all, enough food and drink. Ah, and some candied chestnuts for you, my friend. Warbeak uttered a stream of curses as she stumbled on the brick. Matthias waited as she picked herself up. Tut, tut, such language for a young sparrow. Constance and Ambrose Spike watched the odd pair pass by. The badger tapped the side of her head with a paw. Bats in the belfry. Or sparrows, giggled the hedgehog. Basil Staghare superintended the willing creatures who carried logs and filling to shore up the gatehouse entrance. The hare had brought a touch of military efficiency to bear upon the exercise. He had formed the volunteers into a living chain which constantly passed the defense materials along. Basil brought his good-natured authority into play. You there, fourth from the end, chappie. Liven your ideas up, laddie buck. That's the third time you spilled a bucket of soil. Here, let me show you how. The timid mice smiled among themselves. The blustering hare was quite a friendly and kindly creature, really. All bark and no bite at all. He shared the tasks with them, working as hard as anyone. No, no, brother, what's your name? You pass logs along like this. Look, you go and get a bite to eat. Come on, the rest of you beautiful dreamers. Stir your stumps or I'll have your whiskers for bootlaces. The helpers laughed and did as best they could. Now and again there would be barely stifled giggles as they watched the performance of Silent Sam. He stood behind Basil, pantomiming the hare's every movement, puffing up his tiny chest and strutting about imperiously, or importantly, sorry. In the Abbey kitchens, Cornflower carefully wrapped Matthias's food in fresh dock leaves. Matthias sidled up, helping himself to a candied chestnut. Cornflower rapped his paw with a wooden ladle. Those nuts are for your poor little sparrow. Leave them alone, you great glutton, she scolded. Matthias snorted indignantly. Poor little sparrow, my eye! Listen, miss, if I let that young hussy off her lead for 5 minutes, we'd all be murdered in our beds. The young field mouse helped Matthias with the haversack straps. She tried not to let her concern for him show. Matthias, I know you won't tell me where you're going, but wherever it is, please take care of yourself. Matthias adjusted the dagger in the black sword belt. He stood framed in the doorway, smiling confidently. Don't worry, Cornflower. I fully intend to take care of myself for the safety of Redwall Abbey and for you. A moment later, he was gone. Halfway along the top dormitory passage, Matthias halted. A stepladder was set up underneath a wooden loft door in the ceiling. Methuselah came along, leading Warbeak. The sparrow was still wearing the collar, lead, and brick shackle. Matthias looked up to the door. So, that's where we're going, eh? The old gatehouse keeper gave him a neatly drawn map. You'll find it all marked down here, Matthias. That door leads you to a loft. Turn to your right and keep walking until you touch the wall. To your right, you'll find a gap in the wall. On the other side of that gap, you will come out halfway up the wall of the great hall on a ledge between the arches of the sandstone columns. From there, you must climb up to a higher row of ledges along the stained glass windows. Scale the rib in the center of the first windows to the left, and you'll find yourself on a wooden ridge that runs along parallel to the curve of the roof. Further along that ridge, there is another wooden loft door. I'm sorry, but I cannot locate it exactly. You must find it yourself. When you do, go through it, and you should be directly underneath the top roof attic. From there on, you are on your own. I cannot help you, Matthias. The ancient mouse placed his paws on his young friend's shoulders. His voice trembled as he bade goodbye. Good fortune go with you, Matthias. I wish that I were young and agile once again, so that I could accompany you. Methuselah embraced the young mouse as if he were his own son, and Matthias ascended the ladder, and the old mouse called out final instructions to him. If that sparrow causes you any trouble, don't hesitate to kick her off into thin air. She'll come down as fast as the brick she's tied to. Warbeak scowled, but made no comment. She knew Methuselah spoke the truth. The brick was like an anchor against her leg. Matthias gave the loft door a strong shove upwards and slid it to one side. He covered his eyes and coughed as the dust of ages poured down on his head. Tugging the sparrow behind him, he climbed into the loft. It was very dark and gloomy. Matthias peered over his right. Faintly, he could make out a strip of wan grayish light filtering in. "Him be gappin' wall like old Warmouse say about," Warbeak chimed. "Hey, keep a civil tongue in your head, Sparrow. That's my friend you're talking about," gritted Matthias as he strode off to the right, tugging the lead. His concentration broken, he stepped awkwardly upon a joint and tripped heavily into the thick dust. Warbeak was on the young mouse in a flash. The sparrow scratched hard at Matthias's neck and pecked at the back of his head, forcing him down to the floor. Matthias felt the suffocating dust clog his mouth as he struggled to turn his body over. Warbeak pecked and scratched frantically, her target obscured by the bulky haversack. Reaching up behind himself, the mouse felt around till he grasped the sparrow's leg. Giving it a hard pull, he rolled over, plucking out his dagger in the same movement. Matthias lay across Warbeak, pinning her to the floor, the point of his dagger pricking the sparrow's throat. "Listen, Warbeak," Matthias panted. "One more move like that, and it will be your last. Do you hear me?" Both creatures lay still a while, their faces close together, breathing heavily. The sparrow was still defiant. "I get 'em chance, Warbeak. Kill him else. Sparrow not give up. You see." Matthias sprang to his feet, tugging the lead viciously. He dragged the sparrow, stumbling and tripping, to the crack of light. Swinging the bird upwards, Matthias pushed her through the narrow aperture, squeezing through after her with great difficulty. They were on the first ledge, high above the great hall. Without warning, Matthias shoved Warbeak roughly off the edge. The startled sparrow shot downwards and stopped with a jerk, only thick neck feathers saving her from strangulation. Matthias held the lead tightly with both paws, straining backwards as the sparrow dangled and fluttered over the great hall. "Now, you promise to behave yourself, or down you go, my friend," Matthias shouted. With her heart hammering at the surprise attack and her predicament, Warbeak realized that she was completely at the mercy of her captor. Burdened with the brick, she had no chance of flying. As she hung, flapping uselessly, Matthias called out, "Make up your mind! My paws are getting tired. This lead's beginning to slip." The forlorn little voice answered, "Warbeak not want 'em die. Mouse win. Pull sparrow up. Be good. Give 'em word." Bracing himself against a stone arch, Matthias pulled the sparrow back to safety. Together they sat on the ledge, sharing a canteen of water, both weary and dusty. Matthias was still wary of his prisoner. "How good is the word of a sparrow?" he asked. Warbeak puffed out her chest. "Sparrow's word always good. Warbeak no say 'em lie. Me swear by my mother's egg, that big swear." Matthias reflected that he had used desperate measures to secure a promise, but with justification. He was being uncompromising with himself as well as his captive. No more could he afford to be the silly little novice that bumbled about the abbey before the start of the present troubles. He was maturing, learning the warrior's way. This mission was vital. Redwall depended on him just as it had once depended upon Martin the warrior. Warbeak cocked her head quizzically to one side. "What'd Matthias think about?" The young mouse repacked the water canteen into his haversack. "Oh, nothing much, Warbeak. Come on, we'd better get on." With an odd feeling, Matthias realized that he and Warbeak were now on first name terms. Clooney might be making promotions. There was now 3 rat officers on the list of the dead. First it had been Skullface, killed beneath the wheels of the cart. Next to go was Ragear. There was talk of a serpent. He was never seen again. Now Redtooth, Clooney's first officer, was missing, presumed dead. Most of Clooney's army had an eye to promotion, not only for prestige, there were extra shares of loot to be considered. Kilconey, the ferret, extolled the virtues of his weasel friend Scrag, who had met his death at the foot of the big elm tree. Ah, let me tell you, buckos, Scrag, now there was a weasel with a head on his shoulders. Officer material he was, definitely. Do you know, I still can't figure out how a smart boyo like that could let himself be killed in a fall from some old tree. Cheese Thief sneered. Clumsiness, I'd say. I was there and saw it all. Besides, Clooney wouldn't have a weasel officer ordering rats about. And why not? Challenged the ferret. I'll wager the chief would promote any creature that showed good sense and a fighting spirit. Will you look at me now? I'm a fine figure of a ferret. Why, if I was the chief, I'd make me a captain just like that. And the ferret snapped his claws. Cheese Thief spat on the ground in contempt of Kilconey, knowing that there was not much chance of promotion for himself. He was only rated as a minor sort of officer. If it came to a decision, Darkclaw was the natural choice. Fangburn had fallen from favor since the incident with Selah and Redtooth. Nevertheless, the weasels and their brethren, the stoats and ferrets, argued their case hotly. Why shouldn't others be promoted? Who was so superior? What was so superior about rats? Mange Fur, Scumnose, and Frogblood considered rats to be the elite of Clooney's horde. Darkclaw sided with them while trying to placate the others, attempting to keep a foot in either camp should it come to a vote. One never knew. Little chance there was anything democratic being allowed by Clooney the Scourge, who lay on the bed with his eyes closed, ignoring the whispered bickering and backbiting around him. He would promote only when he was good and ready. Meanwhile, just let any of his horde try to press the issue. Selah and her son skulked in a corner. They felt trapped. Nobody had spoken to them since the demise of Redtooth. It was as if they were being blamed. Suddenly, Clooney called over to Selah. Hey, Fox, take that brat of yours outside for a bit. Get some fresh air and remember, no wandering off. Send Darkclaw in here to me and that Gabby ferret, what's his name? Kilconey. The foxes hastened to do as they were told, glad to be out of the oppressive atmosphere of the sick room. Darkclaw and the ferret came marching up, not knowing whether to be confident or apprehensive. You never knew with Clooney. They both saluted. Chief? Clooney got out of bed. He paced back and forth, testing his legs. Every day they grew a bit stronger. He walked past the pair and spoke without turning to face them. Who knows anything about tunneling? Kilconey stepped smartly forward. The tunnels, Your Honor. You're talking to the very creature. Clooney rested upon his standard. You? Who else but myself, sir? The ferret wheedled. And don't I know some grand old animals that would help? Ferrets like these, stoats and weasels? Why, sure, we're as good as any mole when it comes to tunneling. So we are, shoring and banking, sinking shafts and galleries. Clooney banged the standard against the floor. Enough! Where are these others that you mentioned? Kilconey cocked a claw over his shoulder. Sure, they're all outside, your worship. Shall I go and fetch them? Go, and don't be all day about it, Clooney replied. Kilconey threw a fancy salute and departed. Clooney pulled Darkclaw close to him. He spoke confidentially. Don't, don't you know anything about tunnels, Darkclaw? The rat shook his head unhappily. Clooney put his claw around Darkclaw's shoulder. Well, never mind. I've got other work for you. We can't let ferrets, stoats, and weasels take all the glory, can we? You've always been a good solid rat, Darkclaw. You help me, and I'll see that you get a rich reward when the time comes. And Darkclaw nodded obediently. Some time later, Clooney was in deep conference with Kilconey and his squad. It was interrupted by a scuffle and commotion from outside. Chief Thief strode in, dragging Chickenhound and prodding Selah ahead of him with a spear. "What's going on here?" Clooney demanded. Chief Thief smirked triumphantly. "It's these two foxes, Chief. I caught them with their ears against the door. They were listening in." He skillfully tripped Selah and Chickenhound with a spear butt. They fell in a heap at Clooney's feet, where they lay shivering and protesting about their innocence. "No, not us, sir. We weren't eavesdropping. We were just leaning there for a rest. We're only simple healers." Clooney nodded understandingly. "I see. You just wanted to help with the digging. Is that it?" Eager to please and panic-stricken, Chickenhound blurted out, "Yes, that's right, sir. Give us a chance and we'll tunnel with the best of them." Selah groaned despairingly as Clooney kicked her son viciously. "Who said anything about tunneling, Fox? I only mentioned digging." Selah attempted to save the situation. "Please, sir, take no notice of the young fool. All he meant was that you could dig, said dig." A whack from the banner staff silenced Selah. Clooney's voice was icy with condemnation. "Traitors! All that he meant was that you slipped up when you copied my plans for an attack with a battering ram. So now you know what I intend to do to tunnel into Redwall." Selah licked dry lips. She stared pleadingly at the warlord. Lord, but there was no mercy in that single eye. "You know too much, Vixen. You and your son played a dangerous game. Nobody outsmarts Clooney. I've won, and you both have lost." The foxes clasped their paws. They knelt, whimpering pitifully. Clooney stood over them, enjoying his power as judge. He signaled to Chief Thief and Darkclaw, "Take these miserable turncoats out of my sight. You know what to do." Shrieking and screaming for mercy, the foxes were dragged away, and Clooney turned back to the ferrets, weasels, and stoats. Now, about this tunnel. And there you go. Next time, chapter 14. Until then.